Okay, so we're diving deep today into, well, tariffs.
Tariffs, yeah.
Specifically, U.S. tariffs
Yeah.
on things coming in from Canada.
Right. Big topic.
Huge. We got a ton of research on this. I
Yeah.
think a lot of folks listening are probably wondering, like, how does this hit my wallet?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we'll break it down. How are U.S. businesses dealing with this? What about just shoppers, at the store?
Right.
And what's Canada doing back? Like, are they just taking it?
Oh, no, they're not just sitting there.
It's a trade war.
It is. And then, how do we get out of this mess? What are the options?
Yeah, what are the paths forward?
Big question, right? So how should Canada play this?
Well, I think the first thing to understand is just how many different things these U.S. tariffs,
Yeah.
especially on like steel and aluminum from Canada, how many different areas they touch.
It's not just like the raw materials, right?
No, it goes way beyond that.
It's like stuff that's already been made using those materials too.
Our research is showing this means higher costs for U.S. companies that need those Canadian imports.
Yeah, sure.
And one of the biggest examples is cars.
The auto industry has been really feeling this. I mean, think about it. Making a car, the parts are crossing the border back and forth so many times during the whole process.
Yeah.
Each time that happens, the tariff adds more cost. And who eats that in the end?
The person buying the car.
Exactly, the consumer. One of the studies we looked at, it said a regular mid-sized sedan, the price could go up by like $500 because of these tariffs.
$500.
Yeah.
Oof, that's a lot.
That's a noticeable chunk of change.
And it's not just cars, right?
No.
Like construction, building stuff.
Construction's getting hammered by this, too.
Yeah, I mean, you need steel, you need aluminum for pretty much every building.
It's fundamental, right? So these tariffs, they drive up the cost of all those materials. And that means building anything, whether it's a house or some big office tower, gets way more expensive.
So it's really hitting Americans in the pocketbook.
Oh, yeah.
But Canada's not just sitting there taking it.
Right. They've hit back with their own set of tariffs.
And from what we've seen, they're really focusing on stuff coming from U.S. farms.
That's a strategic move. Agriculture is a huge part of the U.S. economy.
And politically sensitive, too.
Very much so.
One of the sources we looked at mentioned dairy farmers in Wisconsin.
Right.
They're having a really rough time because of this.
Yeah.
So, like, even a gallon of milk could end up costing more.
It's entirely possible. These tariffs Canada's put in place, they're hurting U.S. exporters, and it could easily make this whole trade war even worse.
So it's like this back and forth, you punch, I punch.
Yeah, for tat.
Yeah.
Escalation.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah, how does this get resolved?
Our research pointed to a few ways Canada could try to handle this.
Right. A few different strategies.
And each one comes with its own, like, pluses and minuses.
Absolutely.
So first up, good old-fashioned diplomacy.
Always worth a shot, right?
Talk it out.
Talking is good, but it can take a long time.
Oh yeah, diplomacy's not known for being quick. One source we found talked about back in the 80s, there was this whole thing about lumber, softwood lumber.
Right, yeah.
And it was kind of a similar situation, trade dispute between the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah.
And they have eventually worked it out through negotiations.
Yeah.
Think that could happen here.
It's possible, for sure. But things are different now.
Yeah. The world's a different place.
Geopolitics have shifted.
Yeah.
Another strategy Canada could try is looking for new trade deals.
Like with other countries.
Exactly. Instead of relying so much on the U.S. market, branch out.
Diversify.
Exactly. Of course, trade deals, those take time to set up.
Yeah, you can't just snap your fingers and have a new trade deal.
No, there's a lot of negotiation.
Yeah. But it would give Canada more stability in the long run.
In theory, yeah. And open up new markets for them.
Okay, so diplomacy, new trade deals, and then there's the WTO.
The World Trade Organization.
The big ref for global trade.
Right. They're supposed to make sure everything's fair.
So could they step in and fix this U.S.-Canada tariff mess?
Canada could definitely use the WTO's system for settling trade disputes. Basically say, hey, these U.S. tariffs, they're not cool, they break the rules.
Right.
But even going through the WTO, that can take forever.
More waiting.
And there's no guarantee they'll side with Canada.
So we've got these options, but they all have downsides. What's the most important thing for Canada to remember as they try to figure this out?
Balance, I think. They've got to protect their own industries, their own workers, but they also can't do things that'll hurt their own economy.
Right.
So it might end up being a mix of these different strategies.
Carefully playing it, seeing how things unfold.
Exactly. You have to adapt.
Okay, so zooming out a bit, what does all this mean long-term for both the U.S. and Canada?
Well, the U.S. and Canadian economies are super connected.
Especially with stuff like the auto industry, right?
Absolutely. The whole North American supply chain for cars, it's super integrated. These tariffs, they throw a wrench in that.
Yeah, messes everything up.
And that could mean job losses, slower economic growth on both sides of the border.
It sounds like everyone loses if this keeps going.
It's not a winnable war.
Some of the stuff we read suggested that maybe both countries should look for different places to get their imports and exports.
Diversifying suppliers, yeah.
Is that realistic?
It's definitely something to think about. But it's not simple.
Like, what are the downsides?
Well, changing where you get your supplies from, that takes a long time.
Yeah,
And it costs a lot of money to set all that up.
right. You're basically rebuilding your supply chain.
Exactly. But having more options long term, that could be a good thing.
So this whole tariff situation, it's complicated.
Extremely.
It might seem like it's just about steel and aluminum, but the ripple effects are huge.
Absolute.
Businesses, shoppers, whole industries, everyone's feeling it.
That's the thing about trade. It's all connected.
And it shows just how closely tied the U.S. and Canadian economies are. We need solutions that work for both countries.
Cooperation is key.
Yeah. All right, so for everyone listening, this is a lot to take in, but keep learning, stay informed, because the world of global trade, it never stands still.
It's constantly in motion.
And the choices made today, they'll have big consequences down the road.
No doubt. This is a story that's still being written.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.